Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto x Fem Sakura x Raven x Starfire? The short movie. Huge shout out to Lloyd Irving Zero for this story. If you want more awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Blinding pain that was quickly dying out along with all other senses. He was cold, and while that too was still becoming a muted feeling along with the pain, Sasuke could still feel the sickly warm liquid pulse out of the stump that used to be his left hand. He smirked weakly as he replays the end of the fight. His Sharingan predicated his best friend's attack, the angle he go to stab, the second it would make contact. So even though he had Naruto believe their fight would end with another power struggle, Sasuke actually attempted to win without it. When Sasuke went to stab his Chidori forward, it wasn't for Naruto's chest, nor his Rasengan. Sasuke's target was Naruto's elbow. It was over so fast that the wound couldn't even be cauterized. All Sasuke needed to do was heel turn and strike once more. Being an elite Uchiha surely meant he would win, right? The answer no. No, it did not. Why? Because his opponent was Naruto fucking Uzumaki, Sasuke's bond brother, who never quits, never backs down, never lets fate have its way. So when Naruto's arm was separated from the rest of him, like an X that leaves a Dear John letter, immediately Naruto's dismember was caught on the rebound by an instant shadow clone, whom drove the quickly unstabilizing Rasengan into Sasuke's shoulder, relieving Sasuke of his arm and finishing the fight. Sasuke tilts his head to the side, having a great amount of difficulty doing so, to look at his once-upon a teammate, only to see another body in the Konoha standard shinobi uniform, with pink hair matted down by blood, dirt, sweat, and grim. His other squad mate Sakura, her lips are moving but the voice sounds so far away. Come on Naruto, hang in there. I'll get you stabilized. Her voice started to crack. Sasuke didn't even need his Sharingan to notice the green glow that was around her hands waver, and was significantly dimmer when it came back on. Sakura saved Sasuke. Both Sakura's and Sasuke's eyes widen at how low the normally loud blonde sounded. Naruto, I got to finish. Sakura started, and though Sasuke couldn't see his best friend's face, its look was enough to convince Sakura otherwise, barely louder than the blonde, filled with despair and instant regret. Oh, okay Naruto. Sasuke acted in that moment as a memory of years prior flashed before his mind's eye while his quickly morphed Sharingan eyes locked with his emerald green teammates before shifting once more into the Rinnegan, sucking both her and the blonde up in a dimension warping jutsu. The memory was one a few years prior on Team 7's first C-rank then turned A-rank mission when the ice-wielding Hakugun for Naruto and the fabled Will of Fire still burned brightly in Sasuke, pushed Naruto out of the way from taking what was thought to be a fatal attack. Sasuke smirked with a painful, pathetic chuckle, said the same words he said that day again, at first seemingly to no one. My body just moved on its own. Someone responded, why Sasuke would you do that? A masked two-eyed Kakashi said as he drew a kunai to finish off his wayward student who seemed to have killed the other members of Team 7. Just like with Sakura, Sasuke's eyes morph one final time. The brief reflection of the Sharingan flashes over Kakashi's eyes. What Kakashi says a moment later, waking from the brief gain jutsu to find the black-haired young man dead with a peaceful smile on his face. Kakashi, a blonde hair younger looking than what she actually is, woman who was truly blessed, or cursed with a large chest, shouted as she walked over to the silver-haired scarecrow. Is it over? Where's Naruto and Sakura? Lady Tsunade. Kakashi tilted towards Sasuke, hinting the deceased did something, but before he continued, Tsunade interrupted. Uchiha, she yelled with disgust, I swear if you killed either one of them. She started to threaten, unaware of the other Konoha shinobi who were awake and free from their pods. Came walking behind her, eyes widened in shock, some by the lack of pink and golden blonde ninjas, some by the state Sasuke was in, and all by what was being said. Before she could finish, Kakashi raised his voice, responding and shutting her up. Tsunade. Kakashi restarted more somberly afterwards. We need a Yamnika. He left a final message for us in here. Kakashi points to his head but saying nothing else. Tsunade takes another look at the dead raven-haired warrior and realizes what Kakashi means by final message. Tsunade was of course hesitant to play to the drum of the Uchiha, and briefly thought of ending the silver-haired Joun in fear he was compromised by whatever the Uchiha did, but after searching her former subordinates, now leader? Masked face eyes before minutely nodding her head. Not happy not knowing where her favorite brat is able to restrain herself only because Kakashi himself seems while not thrilled isn't under any duress over his missing team. As luck would have it, as if waiting for confirmation of Sasuke's death. Cracking sounds drew everyone's attention to the cage-tailed beasts before they too gained their freedom. Everyone watched with bated breath to see what they would do next, only to once more be surprised when they peacefully walked away to places unknown, only the 9 tails hanging back. Leaf ninjas, a deep dark voice came from the fox, my jailer, and the pink banshee are still alive. With that said, the piece of kurama that was still there walked away, much like the others, to somewhere that wasn't there. Though in back of the mind a few thought of reacquiring the chakra monsters. None of the shinobi were willing to fight the tailed beast after everything that happened. In another world, a rift in space opens up in a crime-ridden city. A city terrorized by gangs, mobs, corrupt police, politicians, and bussinessmen. A city which breeds some of the most deranged supervillains the world has ever known. Its one saving grace is its cowled protector, the world's greatest detective and the city's vengeance, Batman and his family. From this distortion, a chakra exhausted, knocked out Sakura falls out. In an alleyway hidden behind a dumpster, she would probably have laid out there until catching her death on the wet, dirty ground. If not for the sound of her falling out of the rift, a group of teens, 3 males, 2 females, are walking by said alleyway. Moments before the strange phenomenon happens. One was red-headed male wearing purple Letterman jacket. A dark-skinned male wearing a Gotham high purple football jersey. The third and final male also had a jersey on, was incredibly skinny, wearing a backwards baseball cap. The first female was blonde-haired girl with a pink cotton sweater. The other female was paler than the rest of the teens, having black hair, dark eyeliner. One thinks she would be typical goth girl if it weren't for the Letterman jacket around her waist and yellow spaghetti strap. Come on babe, instead of going to see some cheesy chick flick movie, how about we go see that new alien horror movie? The redhead said Letterman to the blonde-haired girl. Though before she could respond, the dark-skinned male of the group spoke up. I know you did not just call Paw Hearts a chic flick. A story about a young boy and his poodle growing up together, learning about life and saying goodbye when your fur baby time to go. At this point the teen starts to tear up. They better do the book justice. The third male of the group speaks up at this point. Dude, this movie just screams chick flick. Good-naturedly pointing out what the rest of the group is thinking. Even the 2 females of the group agreed and laughed with the rest. Whatever man, it was my turn to pick and this is what we are going to go see, the second male responds firmly. Besides, I'm sure we can find something to do to entertain ourselves in the dark. The blonde-haired girl responded seductively to the redhead, who quickly changes his tune about the outing. Well, what are we waiting for? He says hurriedly, we need to get most perfect seats for this. Causing the group of teens to laugh again as the third male makes whipping sounds and motions. Dude! You are so whipped, the third male said before a loud crashing sound comes from the alleyway. What was that? The other 2 males very quickly become serious, taking a single step into alleyway, standing shoulder to shoulder. With crime in this city being what it is, the 2 stood protecting the others. Whoever's in there better be hurt or look for another mark if you know what's good for you. The redhead said with false bravado, hoping to scare whoever it was off. When no new sounds came from the alleyway, the 2 were hopeful it worked. What if it's an animal that's hurt? The blonde-haired girl said, proving she would be the first to die in a horror movie by pushing past the 2 jocks entering the dark alleyway. Jennifer, wait, the other female said before Jennifer screamed. Johnny! She yelled, spewing the redhead into the alleyway. Get your hands off. Oh shit! Johnny said, assuming she was being mugged or worse, until he found Jennifer standing over the pink-haired chunin. Is that blood? The third male asked, having followed after hearing Johnny shout. Shit, what happened to her? The second male questioned, looking around for an attacker. I don't think that's her blood, the last female said, nauseated by the copper smell of the blood and stale stench of the garbage cans in the alleyway. Thankfully, due to the commotion the group of teens were making, a member of the Bat family was luckily on patrol nearby and dropped down behind the group. Alright, what's with all the yelling? The newcomer stated, grabbing all the teens' attention, making them quickly turn to look at the newcomer. What they saw was a redhead masked female in skin-tight purple bodysuit that hugged her curves tightly, leaving little to the imagination. A yellow cape on her back and a yellow bat L on her chest just above her perky breast. Her eyes fell on the pinkett and narrowed, first believing the teens in front of her had something to do with Sakura's state. That she quickly dismissed, though, thanks to her training under the Dark Knight, and realizing that none of them were covered in blood. thus were not the what she assumed was the mugger that left Sakura in this state. "Whoa, it's Batgirl, you're so hot," the third male blurted out, completely forgetting what was going on as his eyes were drawn to the valley below the yellow bat. "Right, ignoring that," Batgirl stated as she walked over to the unconscious Cherry Blossom, kneeling down to check her vitals. After she was sure the girl was only knocked out, she meticulously started checking Sakura's pockets for ID. When she stumbles upon Sakura's shurikens. "Whoa ho ho, are those throwing stars?" Batgirl's admirer asked over her shoulder, just slightly to close for her comfort. Before she could respond, another masked teen dropped from the rooftops above. "Batgirl, what's going on?" a younger masked teen asked, succeeding in startling the male, who was starting to give off horny, creeping stalker vibes. "Robin, call an ambulance, and the cops, we have an unconscious unknown with." Still checking Sakura's pockets, she found a pouch with some weird-looking organic balls, food pills. Another pocket had ninja wire. On Sakura's thigh she found her kunai holster. Finally she found a scroll in the last pocket. Opening the scroll up, Batgirl saw a bunch of kanji written in it. "Japanese?" she said out loud, causing the teens behind her to murmur amongst themselves. "Japanese? Like from Japan and shit? Dude throwing stars Japanese thinks she's a ninja? Don't be absurd, who ever heard of a pink hair ninja?" "Right. She's probably one of those geeks who dress up like the cartoon characters." "Fair point, but can you tell me what one has some pink hair ninja chick in it? Like I would know." Batgirl sighed and cursed under her breath, wishing her mentor was here right now. Though she would be one of the first in line to change his demeanor in dealing with the civilians of Gotham, the fact is the intimidating presence that scare even those they were trying to protect would be good right about now. Back in Konoha, it had been a few days since the ending of the war, and once again, inside the Hokage tent, Tsunade and Kakashi meet with Ino Yamanaka, Shizune, Anko, Ibiki, Tenzo, Shikimura, Nara, and Sai. The reason for the large crowd was just in case this was somehow a trap of the Uchihas from beyond the grave. "Okay, Kakashi, shouldn't you get on with telling us why we are all here today? The dango shop won't fix itself, you know," Anko said, twirling a kunai on her finger similar to how one would with a basketball. Anko Ino started with widening of her eyes. "Shouldn't you address Kakashi-sensei as Lord Sixth? Now why would I do that? He hasn't been publicly coordinated or anything," Anko states while flipping the kunai in the air, snatching it in free fall, and then relaxing her stance with her arms behind her head, all the while having a shit-eating grin plastered on her face. Troublesome woman Shikimura's sighs getting a deadly glare from Anko and riling Ino up, only causing Shikimura to further sigh. However, before it could go any further, Tsunade took back control of the gathering. "Shut up, all of you," Tsunade said with a tick mark on her forehead, already needing 3 bottles of sake to deal with the eccentrics of her shinobi. Currently, Kakashi is untrustworthy of being in charge of the village thanks to the traitor Sasuke Uchiha. "If that's the case, master, why isn't?" Shizune started interrupting Tsunade once more, though the death glare she was receiving from her master quickly made her fall into a mumbling mess. "Kakashi at T&I. That is why myself and Anko are here," Ibiki, either unaware or simply not caring about the Senju's temperament, responded. "I swear not even Jiraiya was this dense," Tsunade stated, grinding her teeth, causing everyone to sweat drought. The long and short of it is that the Uchiha implanted a message to Konoha about the whereabouts of Naruto and Sakura. Tsunade looked around the tent at the gathered, explaining exactly what they were called there for. "Ino will need you to link our minds together to view this message. Shikimura, you are here, so if this is a trap, our brightest mind can disrupt it." Ino nodded while Shikimura once again closed his eyes in annoyance, mumbling what was to no one's surprise troublesome but was otherwise ignored. Anko and Ibiki are. At this, Tsunade gave glance to Ino. Because they've done this with Inoichi for years, they are the best chance for recognizing anything that might be a threat in Kakashi's mind. Despite the brief flash of pain in Ino's eyes, she surprised the fifth by setting aside the grief to be dealt with latter. "Shizune knows why she is here, and Team 7, you are here at my request." Kakashi finished up for Tsunade, ready to move along with this. Tsunade looked at Kakashi critically, looking for any sign of betrayal. After long tense minutes, she nodded to Ino. "Right." Ino puts the necessary seals together to link everyone's minds with her own before doing once more, connecting them all to Kakashi. Most of the time, if the Bat family came across an unconscious person in an alleyway, they would first check for signs of life, then look for any signs of the encumbered having been attacked, or was a known associate of one of the Bats Rouge's gallery groups. If both are no, they typically would call for an ambulance and cops to scene so that the person could get medical help. while they could theoretically do more. The sad reality is that unless they arrive on scene during or close to the act, either seeing the perpetrator or hearing/seeing them get away, most one-off muggings, and the occasional heinous rape are left for the cops to resolve. That isn't to say that in the Bat computer database at the Batcave wouldn't have a new file that coincidentally has the medical and official police reports over the incident added. In case a pattern starts or links to it, there's always a bigger fish to fry. However, sometimes these one-off incidents have something odd that sticks with the curiosity of one of the Caped Crusaders. Just enough to look into that file sooner than when another case shows up. A pink-haired Jane Doe covered in blood, not her own, with a handful of weaponized kunai, amongst other things, on them. Yeah, that stuck with Barbara Gordon A.K. A Batgirl. She ended up checking the file 3 times in the last 2 weeks only to see no change. Jane Doe was still unconscious. There were no hits on any identity databases with prints or DNA. This of course gave Batgirl the impression that Sakura was an illegal immigrant that either got free from some slave ring, though doubtful as she had none of the telltale signs of captivity life or branding as a piece of merchandise, or one who had slipped into the country most likely as a stowaway on a ship. There was also the possibility that Batgirl had already written off where Sakura was actually on the other side of the law and was either cut out/off from the latest deal and disposed off, mostly because of the injuries Sakura did have. None were anywhere near being life-threatening. Which, if you want to be successful doing the illegal, especially in Gotham, it was best not to leave witnesses and or scorned business partners. Still doesn't explain why she had those weapons. Barbara had muttered to herself. She had taken the night off from patrol with Beep and Bruce, the arguments were getting worse, and she needed a night away to de-stress. So of course that meant having a night to do but schoolwork. Crime fighting does not leave one with the most active social life after all. She had once more accessed the file on the pink-haired Jane Doe. Barbara let out a sigh. She didn't know why she was disappointed or even so interested in the mysterious women. It wasn't like she had any plans to interrogate her once she woke up. There was a sudden knock at her door, causing Barbara to quickly close the Bat-Sever screen and pull back up research for her studies. Jim Gordon, Barbara's father, and the commissioner for Gotham's police force walked in. "How go the studies, dear?" he asked with a fatherly smile on his beard face. "Oh, you know," Barbara smiled, leaving it at that. While the subjects would be difficult for most to grasp and retain, Barbara had an eidetic memory, so retaining wasn't too hard for her provided she could get the time to understand the subject. "That's my girl," Jim responded as he let go of her door. "I don't know how I was so lucky to get a daughter who got both her brains and looks from her mother." This caused both to laugh. "Dad, I'm sure I got something from you," Barbara said gleefully while thinking, "like your sense of justice for one." "I doubt that very much," Jim responded with a laugh, enjoying the moment with his daughter before he caught a glimpse of his watch, reminding himself why he came up there. "Anyway, dear, it seems the Riddler is running amok again. Batman and Robin seem to be on it already. He sighs. There's a bunch of what we believe are his thugs strung up around town. I already ordered the pizza before I got the call, so don't wait up for me," he said with a frown, as even though it was pizza he was looking forward to having dinner with his child. "It's okay, Daddy," Barbara already guessing what was on Jim's mind. "Rain check?" She gave him an innocent smile, doing what she could to convince him everything was all right. Jim nodded to her, exiting her room and shutting the door before shouting back, "Honey, please don't answer the door dressed like that." This caused Barbara to look at herself in the mirror on top of her dresser yellow t-shirt that doesn't fully cover below her stomach and purple panties. "Don't need the delivery guy, think he just walked into one of those movies after all," Jim muttered to himself as he left. This inadvertently caused Barbara to realize her situation, home alone, off work, needing a stress relief. She checked the time on her computer, judging from when her father originally called the pizza order in and from where. She guessed she had enough time for a visit from her little pink friend in the nightstand. Thanks to her dad's last comment, she even already had a fantasy to get lost in. "Isn't there some other way I can pay for this?" she thought, hands trailing down her body. She quietly moaned. "I don't recall ordering any sausage." She lost herself in her fantasy. It would be some time to come before she notices that the pizza delivery guy in her fantasy looked a lot like her friend/coworker Beep Grayson. Later still, that sometimes fantasy Beep would also become fantasy pink-haired Jane Doe. Across town at the same time Barbara is exploring her Batcave. Sakura lies in a hospital bed wearing the green paper-like gown all patients wear. Her room is a single room on the 3rd floor on the more secured side of the hospital. Not because of her being seriously injured, but because of her not having an eye. D was covered in blood, and had a weapon. Speaking of her personal belongings, the only thing in the room with her was her headband. The clothes, weapons, and food pills had been confiscated by the GPD to see if they could find any information from them. Slowly, eyelids in this room opened for the first time on their own in 2 weeks. Sakura had no idea where she was as she blinked several times to clear the blurriness out of her eyes. She looked around looking at the room and let out a huff of annoyance. "Damn it, Sasuke, you actually did it," she said into the room before sitting up quickly, looking more closely around, before her eyes widened in panic. "Where's Naruto?" Because she was hooked up to a heart monitor, as the adrenaline-fueled panic sent her heart rate to skyrocket, which in turn sent an alert to the on-call nurse for that section of the hospital. Lillian, or as the staff referred to her as Mama L, had seen a lot in her 20 years of service at Gotham General. This includes her fair share of someone who is or might be involved in something illegal, having a hit squad sneak in and attack them. So before rushing off to the Pinkhead's room, she called up security to come with her. While she hoped the security was unneeded, she had no delusions on how useless they'd be against one of the pajama folk, or their men. She also worried for the patient, but she had to be pragmatic for the other patients here. Some were on this side because their injuries were more life-threatening after all. However, this was all a moot point, as when the guards and her breached the room the Pinkhead was in, they found it empty with the window open. "Call GPD, we have an escaped high-priority patient," the head guard started to say before Mama L stopped him. "Now hold on, this isn't a cause for concern just yet." She walked over to the bed, checking the girl's charts before walking to the window and closing it. "We have a missing patient, and you're not worried?" The guard looked at her incredulously. Mama L shook her head while having a small smile on her face. This was the typical way she acted when correcting someone. "We are not on the ground floor, and while from time to time some less than savory individuals have snuck into a patient's room, they do not sneak out through the window with said patient. Seeing as no time is like the present, and she have to do it anyway, she went ahead and changed the sheets on the bed and reset or turned off the various noisy machines. No, there is only a handful of fools who would do something like that." Here Mama L frowned as she continued, "While I may not be fond of them Batman, and those youngins he has playing dress up with him, I can see that they seem to be more competent than most of the GPD. So, if from time to time one of our patients on the 3rd floor disappear and the room's window is open, it's best for everyone involved if we wait on making any calls." Mama L ushered the 2 guards out. The 2 guards looked at her skeptically. "What about the patient? If they were in here, shouldn't they, stay in here?" The nonchalant of the nurse was leaving a bad taste in his mouth. "Look, I'm not saying you're wrong to think about the patient, nor am I saying this is morally right." Mama L took a breath in and sighed. "I've checked the girl's charts. Physically, all her injuries she came in with have healed. She just wasn't waking up. My guess is that one of those," she made air quotes, "supervillains, had her either dealing or forced to use some new drug that Batman found the cure for. Trust me, I am sure in a couple of days we will hear that Penguin, Two-Face, or whoever is ultimately behind that young girl winding up in here are back behind bars." Mama L noticed the guards were still not convinced and quickly got behind them, pushing them out of the hospital wing's entrance. "If she not back by morning, there is a procedure in place so you all won't be blamed for losing her. Y'all can trust Mama L, can't ya?" She waited for a response but just got a couple of hesitant nods. "Good, now get back to making your rounds while I do mine," she finished with a tone that brooked no room for argument. Outside the empty room, however, next to the now closed window, a half-naked Sakura decided on what to do, having woken up not in Konoha or any village she knew of. "I couldn't understand a word those people were saying. I have got to find Naruto," Sakura thought as she stuck to the wall. Sakura closed her eyes and concentrated. While she was not a sensor ninja, the fact was that unless you were likely, any ninja could learn to do the basics. Sensor ninja could do it easier. Sakura, thanks to Tsunade's training, she should be able to find Naruto's tailed beast-sized chakra signature. Her face morphed into devastation when she couldn't feel Naruto anywhere. "Naruto, where are you?" She started to tear up before she shook it off and had a more determined scowl on her face, any signs of tears gone. "No time to break down, Sakura. I am someplace unknown, the language unknown, teammates location unknown, and..." Sakura took this moment to assess the situation, and no tools, cash, or clothes. "Naruto, I will find you after I figure out more about wherever Sasuke sent us. Just wait for me." With this thought in place, Sakura let herself drop to the ground before running off into the night. Hopefully I can find some clothes before I give anyone a show. Back in Konoha 2 weeks in the past, Tsunade, Ino, Sai, Tenzo, and Enko find themselves deep into the mental mindscape of Kakashi, being led by the strangest mental projection Ino and Enko had ever seen. This is so messed up, Ino muttered while Tsunade nodded, Sai oblivious to how strange the sight before him is nor knowing the best facial expression to imitate. Tenzo had the scariest deadpan to date by what he saw. You know, I did a few of these with Inoichi, and I have got to say, while not the most funked up visual self, definitely in the top 3. Enko said without the normal carefree snark or attitude. The thing that had everyone dumbstruck, or should say person, was in fact Kakashi. His mental projection of himself was that of a winged chibi childlike version of himself with dog ears and tail. He wore his normal outfit, including a headband tilted over his eye. Around his neck, however, was an oversized golden diamond-encrusted necklace that read Ika Ika for life. In his arms was an orange-colored book cradle like a religious tome. His visible eye was in a permanent eye smile. What's wrong?" Kakashi asked, with none of the group able to tell if he was serious or not, and thus left him unanswered. The mindscape, thankfully, was more of what Ino would expect, a long hallway with memories tucked behind doors, similar to an apartment complex. It was of Yamanaka belief that a lot mindscapes were projected like this for ninjas because of compartmentalized techniques. Though, the doors looked like normal doors with a handle that should swing open. Kakashi's, however, had doggy doors on each and every single one. Here we are, Sasuke's behind here." Chibi Kakashi stopped at a random door and stated in his carefree tone. He flew through the doggy door, causing Tsunade's eye to twitch. Ino tries the handle on the door only to find it doesn't budge. "Senpai," a quiet Tenzo muttered as others are staring in a mix of annoyance and dumbstruck. "Let's just get this over with," Tsunade said as she got on her hands and knees and crawled through, soon followed by the others, on the other side of the door. Ino expected to find themselves back at the valley at the end after whatever fight that ultimately killed Sasuke happened. Instead, she found herself in a living room dimly lit by moonlight coming from the window, a blue couch, tipped on its end, a coffee table broken before the group was illuminated in the light. On the wall, dark black, possible deep red stains and splatters even across a partially cut Uchiha marked flag that had once hung up there. Where are we?" Ino asked, not recognizing the place. "This is Sasuke's home after." Tenzo started only for a new voice to finish. "The night my brother was ordered to massacre our clan," the voice said, causing everyone to turn around and see a clean and uninjured Sasuke. Why are we here? How did he respond like that?" Tsunade asked in slight panic as the situation was more and more taken out of any norm and control. "I can answer because that is what the Gain Jutsu I casted on Kakashi was meant to do." Sasuke started to respond only for Tsunade to interrupt. "Bullshit," she said with venom. "I cut your head off, crushed those cursed eyes, and burned your body to ash myself. Any Gain Jutsu you could have put on Kakashi should have long since burned out." Sasuke had the smallest condescending smirk on his face, just infuriating the blonde woman. "Truth be told, I didn't think this would work myself." Sasuke shrugged, "but then again, was an elite Uchiha with the Sharingan. Now my cute little genin, why don't you just tell us where you send Naruto and Sakura?" Kakashi spoke up before the argument got any more heated. This did stop Sasuke's goading, but not because of what was said, no, just that his attention was drawn to the sight of Kakashi. It disturbed him, and for a moment Sasuke was reminded of when he first graduated. More to the point, what him and Team 7 had to put up with at the hands of the silver-haired jounin. Tsunade smirked, seeing the Uchiha thrown off. Though it didn't last, as instead of blowing up on the silver-haired jounin. "Fairy?" Sasuke let out a brief chuckle, his smirk becoming a more warm, light smile. Like one may were reminiscing a time when they felt embarrassed by a goofy parent. Now able to laugh it off, Sasuke soaked it in just a moment more before speaking. "I sent Naruto and Sakura away." Sasuke's answer was met with silence before Tsunade responded, her anger rising once more. "We already gathered that, Uchiha. Why did you do it, and where are they?" Every mental projection there could feel the icy tone she used to respond. "Where?" Sasuke shrugged. "Somewhere away from this funked-up world. Somewhere I truly believe they can find happiness." Another pause as no one knew how to respond. Tsunade was expecting a lot of horrible things, but that response was not one of them. "I am sure Kakashi by now told you of the fight with the moon goddess, how we had to travel through multiple dimensions to fight her." Sasuke got the slightest of nods from those present. I opened another portal to take the two of them to a new dimension. Damn you, Uchiha! Surprising it was in fact Ino cursing the Uchiha. You couldn't just die without one last middle finger to Naruto. They both loved you. Naruto was going to be Hokage. Sakura. She continued to yell at the Genjutsu ghost, breaking down with Anko silently putting a comforting hand on her shoulder, not really calming her down but did stop her from shouting again. Sakura was still holding out for you to return to the leaf. She finished weakly. I know, Sasuke said in a pitiful, almost scolded child tone filled with remorse. The group stared wide-eyed at Sasuke, who no longer looked like the Avenger trained by Orochimaru on the cusps of adulthood. He now looked like he did before the Chunin exams, high-collared blue shirt, beige shorts and all. My last attack severed Naruto's arm. I thought I had won, but Naruto was able to take my arm as well. Unlike my attack though, Naruto destroyed it completely. Sakura had started to reconnect Naruto's arm, but I could see how drained she was. Naruto the idiot could too and was convincing her to stop healing him to save me. As he spoke, before the group's eyes Sasuke was becoming smaller and younger. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let another brother sacrifice himself for me. So I forced Sakura to continue working on Naruto. He pointed to his eyes, hinting to how he forced Sakura to do what he wanted. As for why away, I did that for Naruto's dream of peace. He is now the strongest ninja in the elemental nations, affiliated with one of the villages no less. It may have not happened immediately, but sooner or later the other villages would have attempted to build strength to defeat him. Once they succeeded, the Fifth Ninja War would have started. His rule as Hokage could very well have been as short as the Fourth's. Here he sighed, and no matter how friendly Naruto was, he would always be looked on by fear instead of respect. Naruto would have died only marginally loved and unhappy. You couldn't have known that he earned the respect of the village when Tsunade started to rant, only for Sasuke to interrupt. When he defeated Pain? Yet how many requests did you have asking, pleading he be left in blood prison? No. Naruto deserves better. This was for the best. Sakura and Naruto can rebuild their lives better wherever they are. They can become more than just stepping stones to the next world war. Sasuke finished slightly crazed before his facial expressions returned to neutral. I'm tired now, so this is goodbye, Sasuke states as he started to glow once more before slowly dissolving away. So sure he is in his decision, he leaves no chance for a rebuttal. This is for them, the best chance for his dream of peace. If he still wants to be Hokage, I'm sure Sakura could help start a new Konoha and Uzumaki clan. The group is ejected back into the real world as the Genjutsu collapses. The last part of Sasuke Uchiha finally leaves the mortal plane. Collectively, those unused to mind diving rub away headaches as they become grounded to their own bodies once more. Are you all alright? Shizune asked, noticing the movement. What was in Kakashi's memory? Do you know what happened to Sakura and Naruto, my lady? Tsunade doesn't answer right away as her hand glows green, numbing the headache. Was he speaking the truth? Did the people in Konoha really want Naruto to stay locked up in the blood prison? Ino asked out loud, shocking those who didn't go on the mind walk. Tsunade for a moment thought about denying this statement, condemning the words of a dead man. But at this point only a few in the room didn't know how factual the statements were. The fact that the one it was about had little to no chance of ever returning, and damn it, she was tired of the bullshittery of the Konoha citizens. There were some who tried to propose leaving Naruto there as a way to keep the QB from being captured. Tsunade said. She went to the Hokage desk and opened the special drawer that she kept anything to do with Naruto in. She pulls out a thick manila file and thumbs through it. On the front, in Tsunade's/Jiraiya fashion, who helped put this file together, was bold letters naming the file Konoha's Bigotry Greatest Hits Volume 5 with the Uzumaki swirl on the other side. While some in the room were exasperated by what Tsunade was looking through, Anko, who had interestingly enough had made similar file for the countless bar notes she received asking, demanding sex from the snake whore. Her happy-go-lucky mask slipped when the implication that this file had 4 other predecessors and that it was only the worst of them. Even she couldn't help but feel sick at the people she shared a village with. Tsunade found the documents in the file and handed them to her successor, whom briefly skimmed through and made mental notes on which citizens would die by the most coincidental bandit attacks in the coming months. then passed the documents to the others. Lord Danzo may have wanted to make Naruto into the perfect weapon for Konoha, and by turn kept him locked up until needed. Even he eventually saw the fault in this prior to his death. Sai spoke up of one of the few times Danzo would have admitted that his way of doing things was wrong. Outside of a mumbled troublesome, no one said much of anything else on the subject as the files were passed around. Once everyone had a chance to look at the files, Shizune collected them somberly, handing them back to her master. Tsunade gave a look to Kakashi, who read her mind and shook his head. Tsunade nodded to this and created a small flame, setting the entire folder ablaze. The information inside was only copies of the originals, which were filed in a more secure location. This room was going to be Kakashi's, and ultimately was up to him on what stayed in his desk. Tsunade led the debrief, so those who didn't go into Kakashi's mind were caught up on what they encountered, which put the puzzle pieces together on Ino's question and Tsunade divulging of the file. With all gathered up to speed, Tsunade brought up next point of discussion. Does anyone have any idea on how we bring Sakura and Naruto back? She unfortunately was drawing a blank on how to travel between dimensions. If we still had Sasuke's Rinnegan. Kakashi started while looking at Tsunade. We don't, and maybe it was in haste, but honestly, without Naruto here, the power of those eyes, if they fell into the wrong hands, I don't fully regret destroying them. Tsunade said as it was her fault they no longer had the eyes. No one could fault Tsunade for her actions, as much as they could really use those eyes right now. With not having an Uchiha to transplant them into, anyone who did get them transplanted into them would take months, even years, to just get used to the constant chakra drain. Then the fact would be the actual chakra cost to use them, and the unknown, possibly infinite worlds the two were sent to. They may very well never be found. I think we should stop here for now, Kakashi said, breaking the silence. We should probably have a meeting with the Alliance War Council, let them know the status of the heroes of the war. I am putting faith into Naruto's dream of peace that they in turn will help us retrieve them. Kakashi, that's... Tsunade tried to object to this, as while having more minds trying to figure this out could potentially find a solution, it would still be admitting a severe weakness to the other villages whom only had agreed to work together due to such an overwhelming threat. I know what you want to say, Tsunade, and believe me when I say I have not decided this lightly. Kakashi interrupted in a powerful tone, one expected of an Hokage. But if Naruto's dream of peace is going to become reality, this would be a good first test of it. It's time for Konoha to pay back some of what's owed to Naruto and his childhood, even if he himself would say otherwise. The sins of the past do not wash away with begrudging apologies. For a moment everyone in the room eyes widened in shock by the strength in Kakashi's voice, some seeing for the first time why he would officially become Lord Sixth. However, when what he said sunk into doubt again, the rest of the world faded from their minds. At least temporarily, as they could not refute it. After all, the world over had owed the original Team 7 for its salvation. Those in the know had a long night independently trying to come up with a solution. For Kakashi, Tsunade, and Shizune also had letters to draft for the world leaders asking for help in bringing its heroes home. 1 month after Sakura's departure from the hospital, it was a cool August night in Gotham. The boy Wonder was once more on patrol alone. The arguments he was having with his mentor and adoptive father had not gotten any better. A while back, Robin had been captured and shot by the Joker. After he recovered, Batman, guilt-ridden for bringing his young ward into the vigilante work, had attempted to forcefully retire the boy Wonder for his safety. Obviously, Beep wasn't too keen on this and was fighting back on the decision, causing the rift in the Bat family. It had gotten to such a state that Robin was deciding to strike out on his own. He had been looking for a new city to protect, one that would have a decent university, for appearance sake, and was in need of a protector. Finally, it needed to be far enough away that Batman would be hard-pressed to drop in for a visit for any stretch of time. He believed he found just the city named New Jump City. Getting into the university would be of no problem, he just needed to find a base of operations. Maybe a giant tower on island in the shape of an R, Robin thought to himself as he swung between the gap of two buildings. Though Batman would advocate for something more discreet, and Robin could see the usefulness in keeping to the shadows. At the end of the day, Robin, no Beep, was a circus performer at heart, being center stage is in his blood. It's why the Robin custom is his family's red and green, why he'd prefer a flagrant takedown than a silent knockout. It's another reason why he was growing restless under Bruce's mantle. The sound of breaking glass pierced through the night. Well, some people just can't help themselves, Robin said to himself as he lands on the roof of a building across from a library that is the source of the alarm. I think this is first time I've come across a break-in at a library. Maybe some vandals? Robin thought to himself as he jumped from the roof with a flourish flip before shooting off a grapple to another building and landing on the street below. As he drew closer to the door, he pulled out a gadget from his belt that quieted the alarm wirelessly by hacking into the system. The alarm company would still be made aware of it being activated, and in turn the GPD as well, but it would help the boy wonder assess the situation if he could hear his own thoughts. He could now make out the sound of rustling papers, books being picked up and carelessly dropped, but no voices. Judging by the lack of urgency in these actions, from what he could hear, Robin drew up a couple conclusions on who was in the building. Maybe some rich kids believing they are only going to get a slap on wrist if they are caught. Or possible homeless not caring what happens as long as they are off the street for the night. Robin wasn't forsaking the training and caution/expect the worst mentality drilled into him thanks to Batman. Robin was confident in the low threat to call out to whoever was inside as he slowly made his way in, foregoing a stealth-oriented approach, purposely stepping on the broken glass from the destroyed door. Soko and are you now a dare Disuka? A startled female voice called out from the dark. Robin narrowed his eyes, not understanding what was said. Was that Japanese? Robin thought before he responded. Didn't anyone ever tell you, you'll ruin your eyes reading in the dark? Slowly a person stepped toward Robin in slow measured steps. Robin tensed, ready for a fight. The person had on some aged blue jeans, a forest green old jacket, a black long-sleeved shirt, some tattered gloves, and finally a dark blue chamois covering their head and face except for the eyes. In her hand were a few books she had no doubt taken from the shelves within the building. Tada no Kodomo, the masked female said in a dissatisfied sigh, once she got a good look at Robin. Robin narrowed his eyes as he didn't know what the masked female had said, but he couldn't help but feel insulted. Unfortunately, the librarians here prefer you to return books on time. Something you will have a hard time doing behind bars, Robin said as he reached into his utility belt, pulling out a set of handcuffs, causing the shrouded intruder to narrow their own eyes. Instead of responding, the masked female struck first, tossing the books at the boy Wonder. Robin flipped back, dodging the first volley of literature, putting away his handcuffs, and returned fire with a couple of his Robin-themed birdarangs, expecting his opponent to either dodge or get hit in the hands and disarmed. He was not prepared for, instead of either choice, the masked female threw more books too, specifically hitting his thrown weapons out of the air as if she could track them. Robin reached behind him, pulling out a collapsible staff he used to swat the remaining in-flight reading material away. I don't think this is what Alfred meant when he told me to hit the books, Robin said, smacking last of the second volley of volumes away before rolling toward the book thrower and striking out with his staff. Sakura's POV. For the past month, Sakura has had a hell of a time getting set up. More than once questioning her decision to leave the hospital she woke up in. That first night she stuck to the shadows as much as possible. She would have preferred, given the state of undress, to have stuck to the rooftops. Upon leaving the hospital grounds, however, she was quick to realize her chakra levels were still low. Something about this world was making it hard to recover. Thankfully, for her shame, she had come across a large metal container in the parking lot of a church. She watched as person dumped clothes into it before walking away. Pausing for a moment, she quickly but quietly made her way to it. She wasn't able to find an easy way to access the inside, and no lock-picking tools. She had to expend a little bit of her diminished supply of chakra to break into the box. At least afterwards, Sakura was clothed in more than just a hospital gown. After clothes, Sakura would go on to set up a base of operations in an abandoned dance studio in the slums of Gotham. The windows outside were boarded up with just enough open space to see outside. Electricity and water were miraculously still on. This was the month's only saving grace. She used her ninja-trained skills in stealth and misdirection to secure food, more clothes, hygiene supplies, etc. However, she found out the locks of this world varied from what she was used to never seen before. She had been forced to forego stealth when breaking into the shops and restaurants. Fortunately, she did notice that most entrances were no match to her chakra-focused punches. She would spend every day, after getting set up, in search for any news on Naruto. This was where her frustration grew. As for weeks she couldn't find hide no hair of him. She finally came across the library, the very building she was now fighting the teen superhero in. From what she could tell, it was similar to the record rooms inside the Hokage Tower and the academy, but open for public use. Hoping maybe she finds some report about someone finding her blonde teammate, Sakura had first attempted to go in during the day looking for anyone or anything that would be able to help her. She was stopped by the librarian sitting in the front asking if she needed help finding anything. Not understanding, Sakura responded as such, only to be met with an equally confused librarian. However, the librarian had quickly identified the language the pink-haired woman was speaking and quickly went to find an English to Japanese dictionary. Sakura, losing her resolve and feeling exposed, left before the librarian had returned. Sakura still felt that this building was worth taking a look through and decided to return after closing. That decision brought her to now. Unable to pick the lock, Sakura used her new go-to-door opener. A chakra-infused monstrous strength right hook. This did break down the door, while also setting off the alarm. Having done this a few other times when she needed food, she wasn't too afraid of local law enforcement showing up immediately. Unsurprising though, she wasn't having much luck finding anything of use and was about to curse out in frustration when the alarms shut off and she heard the sound of glass being cracked underfoot. "Hey, who is there?" Sakura called out, regretting she had done so little surveillance before breaking into the library. "Didn't anyone ever tell you, you'll ruin your eyes reading in the dark?" A voice had called out from the hole she made. Not understanding what was said, Sakura grabbed a stack of books and slowly made her way back to the front. Already planning to bust down the wall if she needed a new exit, Sakura took in the sight of the costumed-garbed sidekick of the bat, and quickly dismissed him. "Just a kid," she said with a sigh and sweat drop. Truthfully, the kid was actually taller than her, if only just. However, did he really think she'd take him seriously dressed like that? Briefly, the image of Rock Lee and his sensei Might Guy flashed in her mind. She pushed that image aside, as the eccentric duo weren't in this world. For her sanity, she mentally gave a prayer of thanks to small miracles. No way this world had people of their intensity, right? The language barrier reared its head once again, as the red and green teen spoke again with a look of hostility before pulling out handcuffs. Sakura very quickly decided that the person in front of her was a threat and threw the books still in her hands at him. She was shocked when her intended target dodged and returned fire with some metal weapons that vaguely looked avian in shape. Though, that didn't stop her from smacking them off course with her second set of books. This time, though, the masked teen had pulled a metal pole from seemingly nowhere and was knocking the books away. Impressive, Sakura thought, as clearly the young vigilante was slightly better than the general massive population she had minimally engaged with since her departure from the hospital. But no one is going to stop me from finding my teammate. With that thought, Sakura rushed the teen as he was still occupied blocking and batting text. Easily catching him off guard, Sakura landed a heavy fist into Robin's gut that launched him into and through the checkout desk. Sakura was afraid she overestimated her opponent due to his earlier bout of reflexive proficiency. Quickly went to check if he was still alive. Robin was only knocked unconscious. Sighing in relief, Sakura departed, no longer feeling secure enough to continue her search. Space unknown, everything hurt. The trip between universes had not been easy on his already critically injured body. The only reason he was still alive was in thanks to combination of Sakura's Mystic Palms technique, Kurama's gifted regeneration, and whoever the reptilian men were. Why did he owe a measure of thanks to them for saving his life? They had finished patching him up, keeping him stable as the Nine Tails finished. Though, by how he was chained to a wall, with some kind of energy-reducing collar, well, even Naruto could figure out his life wasn't saved by a kind heart. If only he could get free, then he could find Sakura, who would know of a way to get them back home. "Damn it, Sasuke, when I get back I'm going to shove a raisin gun up your ass," Naruto threatened out loud, hoping his words found their way to his Uchiha friend and make him dread the blonde's return. A new alien humanoid responded, walking by wherever the lizard people were keeping the Uzumaki. He quickly noted her dark green eyes, which differed from his longtime crush and teammate Sakura, fiery red hair, brighter shade than his mom's, and of course orange hue skin, his favorite color. The red-haired beauty left the shinobi stunned. The female alien quickly walked off, escorted by two of the reptiles before cognitive thought was regained by Naruto. "Gotham Library." "Ugh, my head," Robin said as he regained consciousness, noticing he wasn't alone. "When did you get here?" Robin, while still foggy from his forced nap, wasn't surprised to be loomed over by both Commissioner Gordon and Batman. Batman merely gave Robin one of his patented stares which all but confirmed they'd talk about it later. Gordon, however, attempted to question what exactly happened with Robin giving his account of events. Even though it might not be much, I think you should sit down with one of our sketch artists. Maybe somebody saw your masked book thrower after she left you here, Gordon said, turning around to call a patrolman over. You there? Tell the sketch artist come here to get Robin's. Gordon stopped and scowled as he felt, or rather didn't feel, the presence of the dynamic duo behind him anymore, which sure enough was the case as he turned back around. Every single time, Gordon lamented as the patrolman could only stand there awkwardly, on a rooftop away from the scene. Look, before you say anything, I know I screwed up. No need to give me one of your stares, Robin ranted. Like the one you are giving me now. What you did was foolish and reckless, Batman stated. Mistakes like tonight is why you are going to stop being Robin, Batman said, using tonight as more fuel to force Beep to retire from vigilante life. Not this again, it was a slip-up. She caught me off guard. You can't say you haven't made the same mistake, Robin argued back. A slip-up that could have been your last, Batman retorted, not confirming or denying Robin's argument. He put two fingers up to side of his cowl's ears. Bruce? The voice of Barbara aka Batgirl was on the other side. Meet me at the Batcave. I'll need your help finding the criminal that escaped Robin, Batman said, ignoring the pouting teen behind him. All three of us? Was it not a run-of-mill thief? Barbara asked, doing her best to hide the frustration to her relaxing activity being interrupted. Not three. Robin will be staying behind, Batman said, causing Robin to boil in anger, clenching his fist, fighting to not shout out. Oh, is he okay? Do we need to let Alfred know he is hurt? Barbara responded, believing Robin to be seriously hurt, as a reason Batman would not bring him along. He is fine, just not going. I'll meet you back at the cave, Batman said, ending the call. I'm not staying behind, Robin said after Batman ended the call. Yes you are, Batman responded. The two stared each other down in silent fade, but ultimately said nothing else as they made their way by rooftops to the hidden Batmobile. Back at the cave, Batgirl was leaning against the desk of the Bat computer. Robin sat in the single chair beside her. So I heard you got your butt kicked, Batgirl lightly jabbed at Robin. I did not get my butt kicked, she only caught me off guard, Robin responded, making air quotes over butt kicked. She got away, left you embedded in the checkout desk. Sounds like a butt kicking to me, Batgirl said with a smirk and tone filled with mirth. There have been several break-ins in the past month matching the one at the library, Batman said as he came down the steps from the grandfather clock entrance. Several? Shouldn't the property damage alone have brought our one-punch girl into the spotlight sooner? Batgirl asked. Normally businesses targeted are more upscale, and there would be some kind of pattern, Batman responded. This case, however, small businesses, ranging from newly opened to going under. One time it's a restaurant, next night a clothing store. Even the items stolen are random. Batman finished typing a command into the computer, showing several more robberies/break-ins with similar destruction. On another screen it shows different images as items stolen, highlighting with corresponding break-ins. Finally, on the main screen, the footage of Robin's fight, or one-punch destruction, plays before zooming in on the face of the robber. Other the footage pops up, focusing in on the intruder. The computer pauses the images before highlighting the images in green with 100% match appearing above the images. Clothes ranging from clearance to best the store has to offer. Bread from Burger Place, vegetables from the sit-down restaurant. Batgirl calls out as she reads. Look at this. Robin chimes in, pointing to a particular recording. She breaks in and with the strength she's got could easily rip open the wall safe right behind the counter. She takes a cheap calendar, a notepad, and a pen instead. Is there any camera views from outside? Batgirl asked. Not likely. Omitting the library, I'm surprised we have any useful footage at all, Robin responded. Barbara, for now review the footage of the break-ins and the day leading up to it. Now that the commissioner is done, I'm going to look for anything they may have missed, Batman said as he made his way to the Batmobile. Great, so we will go look for clues while you get to count how many people write the endings in the front of the mystery books, Robin said as he ran to catch up with Batman. When Robin got to the car, Batman glared at him. Robin stared back as a heavy silence fell between them. Batgirl stared and watched, not sure which worried her more. If the two would continue tense, silently glaring, or if a shouting match would erupt. Oh come on, you need my help, Robin finally burst out, ending the silence. No, Batman responded with a narrowing of his eyes. But I can help, Robin replied. This isn't your responsibility. Go upstairs, Beep, Batman replied. Why do you get to make that choice? Robin shouted, doing his best to hide the hurt he was feeling by being dismissed by his stepfather. The two go back and forth, though Robin is more vocal. Batgirl, who tried to stay out of it, finally snaps, yelling at both. Ultimately, Batman left the Batcave alone. Beep, still in costume, had sat on edge of the desk, head in hands, fuming. Batgirl did her best to go about her task appointed by their mentor. Batgirl could feel Robin's eyes on her, glaring with a burning intensity that she swore he might develop Kryptonian heat vision. You know it's hard enough to go over this without you breathing down my neck. It's not fair, you're not that much older than me, and he is not telling you to quit. Robin replied, unknown to Beep. When Batman first brought up retiring Robin, he had in fact broached the subject with her. Truth is more than a couple of times, but unlike Beep, Barbara wasn't his ward. The only way he could forcefully stop her is leak her identity to her father, a move that would only open a can of worms. Before she could respond to Robin, though, she heard a beeping sound behind her, and Robin shuffling to silence it. What was that? Batgirl asked Robin as she turns to look at him. Nothing. Oh, look at the time, I've gotta wash my dinner. Eat my cape. Robin says, his sour mood forgotten as he rushed up the stairs into the mansion. Hey Beep, wait. Batgirl calls out to the boy, wonders retreating form. Wash my dinner? How dumb does he think I am? Outside of Sakura's hideout, Robin lands onto a rooftop in the middle of old Gotham. He has a GPS-type device created by Batman, in hand. The screen shows a blinking dot that corresponds with the rundown building across the street. Confirming he is in the right space, he puts the device away to pull out high-tech binoculars. With a flip of a switch, he was able to see heat signatures. Now why would you be hiding out here? Robin said out loud as he focuses the binoculars. Through the walls of the building, Robin is able to see a heat blob slowly focus into female shape. Judging by the way her hands slide up and down her body, Robin guessed that somehow the building had running water. Please don't tell me I followed only to watch you perv on some random girl. Batgirl said, startling Robin. What brings you here? Robin stampers as he almost drops his binoculars. So do you put trackers on all the girls who kick your butt? Should I be worried? Batgirl continued to tease Robin. In Sakura's hideout, in the building across from the costume teens, Sakura finishes her shower. She is deep in thought on what to do next. The library was a bust, or at least was a bust for now. She would have to wait for the heat to die down before she could try again. She walks across the main part of the dance studio, having put on a maroon color long-sleeve shirt and some pale purple pajama pants. The only light coming from the former locker shower room, drying her hair with a towel before stopping in the middle. I know you are there, Sakura says to the darkness. Two figures stand just outside of the light, masking their appearance in the shadows, but she receives no response. Sakura's eyes narrow as she tenses for a fight. Not the law enforcement, they seem to make themselves known before entering anywhere from my observations. Sakura thought to herself as she lowers the towel. The shadows shift and Sakura jumps into a backflip as a batarang and a birdarang both come out of the shadows. The two rangs go under Sakura, who lands and then charges toward the shadows. Shinaro, Sakura shouts as she punches towards one while throwing the towel at the other. The shadow that had the towel thrown at it pulls out a staff and hits her arm, directing her fist down. Don't try to block her blows, a teen male voice says, while the towel hits and drapes across his face. Sakura's fist hits the ground, causing the floor to crack in a 3-foot radius. Yikes! I don't want to know how that would have felt if she connected, the other shadow said. That voice, Sakura thought before eyeing the shadow that hit her arm. You're that kid. The shadow Sakura attacked hears this and starts to laugh. Why are you laughing? The male says with an eye twitch, feeling like he was insulted again. She called you a kid, the female shadow said as she throws a punch of her own at Sakura, striking her in the cheek and turning her head to the side. Seriously, I'm taller than her, Robin says, swinging his staff again. Sakura growls, grabbing the staff before being hit. The male shadow freezes, locking his hands in place, and gets swung around into the female shadow before he is forced to let go, launching both into the mirror wall of the dance studio. You think you can tell her to stop? Robin groans out as he rolls off of Batgirl. I only know a handful of words, Batgirl says with a hand to her head. I was kind of worried I seriously hurt you last time. Sakura stalks forward on the two teen superheroes. However, I will do whatever is necessary to fulfill my goal. Sakura squeezes the metal staff, denting it. What did she say? Robin asks once he stands back up, a bead of sweat running down the side of his face. No idea, but I can take a good guess, Batgirl says as she's also stands grabbing a few smoke pellets from her belt. The three get ready to re-engage when a new voice yells out, "Stop!" From the side, taller figure emerges from the shadows, a man in gray suit with a black cowl. Great, another one. I don't care how many of you there are, you won't stop me from finding my Naruto, Sakura says as she puts her guard up, fully ready to take on all three of the Bat family. Batman's eyes narrow as he stands without putting up a visible guard. Batgirl's eyes widen. You can speak Japanese? Robin, who's still angry at Batman, only rolls his eyes. Of course he can, he will even teach you, but quit halfway through saying it's too dangerous. Not the time, Robin, Batgirl mutters back to him. More to the point, did she say she looking for her fish cake? You don't want to do this, Batman says, not taking his eyes off the pink-haired girl. You're right, I don't, but that doesn't mean I'm not prepared to do what I must to find my teammate and get home, Sakura states as she starts releasing killing intent to prove her point. Batman notices the hard look in Sakura's eyes, full of resolve, the intent not breaking through his indomitable will. Batgirl also notices this, and from her limited knowledge of the Japanese language understood the Pinkettes want to get home. Unfortunately, she also knows Batman isn't going to continue with dialogue with the Pinkettes' show of increasing hostility. She runs between the two. Stop. Batgirl's arms are out, palms facing both the Dark Knight and the mezzanine. Get home? We can help you get home, she says in a mix of broken Japanese and English. Sakura beeps her eyebrow but does not attack. Robin is still tense, ready to jump in and attack. Batman continues to stand, striking an imposing figure, but was still prepared to fight if needed. Crunch, crunch. Before any more dialogue is spoken, two new people come into the dance studio. The two men are members of the Falcone family. One has a buttoned-up gray zoot suit, while the other is in a dark brown with a yellow cream dress shirt. Oh, please come right in. Can I get you a drink? Or do you need to contact some other person to my hideout? Sakura says, starting off in an overly cheerful, sarcastic tone before she screams the last part out. Shut up, you foreign slut, the gray suit mobster says as he pulls out a gun, pointing it at Sakura. We got more people coming, and tonight we will finally be able to get rid of you bat freaks. Sakura looks over to Batman, waiting, almost demanding him to translate what was said. Batgirl, already knowing he won't respond, so instead says bad call bad and motions to the two mobsters, only confusing Sakura more. I'm honestly wondering if you are this universe's Naruto, Sakura says in deadpan to Batgirl. What is with your fascination with fish cakes? Batgirl asks, not understanding the insult. Bang! A gunshot rings out and Sakura kneels down with a cry as she holds her now limp right arm. Blood trickles from a bullet wound. I told you to shut up, pink hair whore, Gray suit yells out, holding a smoking gun. She probably doesn't understand. Some idiot runaway sex slave from that group smuggling at the pier, the brown suit says. The Bat family turn on the two mobsters, who are still feeling full of themselves, believing they've got the upper hand. They smirk and the gray suit swings the gun around, pausing for a few seconds on each one, while the brown suit holds up a finger, wagging it in a dismissive manner. Batgirl turns her head slightly to look at Sakura and begins to ask if she is alright, only to stop when she sees her hand covered in a green glow. Whatever you're doing, knock it off now, you candy hair cunt, the gray suit yells, drawing the gun on Sakura once more. Batman narrows his eyes and prepares to rush the gunman. You're one of them freaks that keep appearing since these costume punks started messing with Falcone's turf. Huh! Brown suit yells as he also draws his gun. Now I'm pissed, Sakura says, unnerving the thugs as they don't know what she said. The gray suit, no longer liking the situation, starts to squeeze the trigger. Batman rushes him and gets the gun out of his hand, but not before he gets another shot off at Sakura. At the same time, Robin rushes the other mobster, and Batgirl dives for Sakura, hoping to tank the bullet with her Kevlar suit/cape. Batgirl closed her eyes, expecting to meet resistance of a body, instead feels nothing until she face plants into the ground, the bullet drilling into the floor inches away from her. Get off me, you bat freak, Gray suit yells before ultimately losing the strength contest with Batman and losing the gun. What the ugh? The other one says as before Robin can get to him. Sakura blitz between them, driving her elbow straight into his gut. Blood, spit and bow gushes out of his mouth, some splattering on Sakura. Robin stops his charge. Whoa! Robin feels wind from Sakura as she brushed past him. Sakura side-eye glares toward the guy who shot her. Their eyes meet, and the fight leaves the thug. Batman quickly compensates to the lack of fight within the thug. His eyes narrow as he stares at the thug's face, now showing absolute terror, before he looks to the displaced Kunoichi, whose murderous gaze never leaves his combative tango partner. When he locked eyes with Sakura, he lost sight of the world around him. There was no Batman grappling him, nor the Dark Knight's sidekicks. Hell, even his partner was gone. The only thing he saw, the only person he saw, was the medic Neen. She stood from her crouch and walked toward him, her gait causing a shiver to go down his spine. He vaguely is reminded of those serial killer/horror movies opening scenes where the killer slowly walks up to the downed soon-to-be victim. The victim screaming, pleading for them not to kill them before the close-up of the killer slashing. He doesn't get to scream before her fist collides with his head, exploding it into tiny gibs. His eyes widen and he realizes his head is still attached to his body. However, before he can question the previous hallucination, a supernatural force draws his eyesight downward. A pink-head female is kneeling there. Before he can even contemplate that something sexual is about to happen, Sakura stabs a knife into his stomach. She doesn't leave it there. She rips it out of his gut before dropping the blade and shoving her fingers into the wound. As easy as opening a cabinet, she rips the wound wider before reaching into the bloody, jagged orifice. She pulls out a part of his intestines, ripping it like tissue paper before rising with it to eye level. The thug's mouth open in a silent scream of agony. Sakura shoves the fecal matter tube into his gaping mouth. It's unclear if he dies from the bloody wound or choking on his own waste. Gray Suit belts out the highest-pitched scream Robin and Batgirl ever heard before his eyes roll into the back of his head. Like a standing puppet that had its strings cut, Gray Suit falls to the ground. His pants have a growing dark stain in front as the foul smell of hot shit starts wafting around the living area/former dance studio room. Did you use Sacred Crow's toxin on him, Batman? Robin asks as he goes over the plausible reasons why the Mafia soiled was knockout besides not having come to any blows. If Batman was going to respond will forever be a mystery, as the sound of multiple cars pulling up outside can be heard. Batgirl slowly gets up off the floor, her nose bleeding and possibly broken from the fall. Robin runs to the window, already knowing what he is going to see. Outside, Sakura's hideout, car after car parks and unloads Mafia soilders. The trunks to the cars are open up, bats, pistol, and automatic rifles are passed around. Once they have their weapons, the made men of the Falcone family line up like linebackers on the line of scrimmage at a football game. A few pull out smokes to calm their nerves, a few with bats smack them in their hands in an intimidating fashion, psyching themselves up for what is to come. That is a lot of firepower. You would think Falcone doesn't like us or something, Robin says, backing away from the front window, trying to joke and hide away his growing concern. Quickly out the back, Batman says, heading toward the locker/shower room and more importantly the fire exit. Robin follows shortly behind the Dark Knight. Batgirl is finally able to get her legs under her and starts to follow. She doesn't make it far as she has a bout of vertigo. As she takes the few seconds to let it clear, she notices that Sakura is still looking toward the front. Batgirl takes a step toward the pink-haired girl but stumbles, desperately clinging to Sakura to prevent from falling. Sakura is surprised by the sudden weight but manages to stay up. Believe it or not, Sakura was aware of what Batgirl had tried to do when the gray suit mobster had taken his second shot. It was because of this she did not immediately go back to fighting the Castone superheroes after the gunman was neutralized. However, this posed a new problem as she could tell Batgirl was injured. The medic in her said to heal the red head. The Kunoichi soldier in her, however, screamed it was a trap. I hope I don't regret this, Sakura thinks as she turns and picks up Batgirl like a princess and dashes for the fire exit. The Bat family and Sakura end up in the alleyway behind the dance studio. From there, the group would take to the rooftops and ultimately get away. Sakura, without a grapple, further impresses and shocks the bats when she climbs to the rooftop in a vertical run. When they are safe, Sakura lets Batgirl out of her arms. Thank you for Batgirl begins to thank Sakura before she lets out a surprised gasp/moan as Sakura puts a green glowing hand to the side of her head. In less than a minute, Batgirl feels a pleasant warmth soothing her head. Her cloudy vision clears and the world stops shaking. Sakura moves her hand to the middle of Batgirl's face. Barbara feels and hears her nose mending itself back into its original place. It is also accompanied by a deep, almost painful itch that felt as if it originated deep below the skin. When Sakura was done healing Batgirl, she takes a few steps back. Though it was unneeded, Sakura gives a quarter bow. Thank you for trying to take the projectile. I admit, while I've seen this world's what I assume law enforcement, carry those metal weapons. I wasn't sure what they could do. Batman speaks up before Batgirl can ask him to translate. This world? What do you mean by this world? Sakura takes a moment mentally cursing herself for saying too much. As she tries to formulate how to respond, Batgirl's eyes are drawn to Sakura's face. She starts making mental observations of hair, eye color, the faint, almost non-existent scars. Sakura brushes a gloved hand over her right eye, moving some hair behind her ear and also smearing some blood across her face. Batgirl has an epiphany. I've seen you before, she says with a rising voice. Huh, what are you talking about? Robin says as Sakura only beeps her head in confusion, honestly getting annoyed that the two teen heroes keep forgetting she doesn't speak their language. The bloody unconscious girl in the alleyway, with the ninja stars. Batgirl clarifies for Robin. You're right, Robin says as he tries to recall that previous run-in. Come to think of it, wasn't there a bolo for a patient that disappeared from the hospital she was sent to? It must have been her. Sakura stays silent, hoping that Batman was distracted by the other two. One glance over to him, and she already can tell that she have better chance of getting Naruto to swear off ramen. Luckily for her, Batgirl bombards Sakura with questions which she then stares at Batman, expecting him to translate, only to receive a scowl and silence from him. She rolls her eyes and pulls out her phone, calling the Wayne Manor. Alfred Pennyworth, Batman's alter ego's butler, answers the call. Thanks to the odd adventures life he has lived, Alfred was tongued in many languages, one being Japanese. Unlike Batman, he was willing to translate between the two girls. Thanks to this, Sakura would share enough of her situation that the Bat family would offer the Pinkett help. Sakura would eventually move into the Wayne Manor. She would get an English crash course through Alfred. Day-to-day technology lessons with Robin and Batgirl. Finally, Batman would help her with her taijutsu or hand-to-hand. Though she offered to, Batman rarely had her help in cleaning up the streets of Gotham, dead set on not bringing another child into the vigilante lifestyle. Though when needed, she would provide assistance in healing the various injuries he and the other two would receive from time to time. Speaking of, the fighting between Batman and Robin hit its breaking point at the start of the new year. Robin would leave for the coastal Jump City to get out from under Batman's thumb. Batgirl and Sakura would follow him, there to help get him situated. Within days of scouting out potential hideouts, cave, sanctuary for the Boy Wonder, the city would be invaded. At the end of it, Robin would have a team of 5 that helped end the invasion. Robin, the leader and martial arts expert of the team. Only member to fully rely on the peak human condition. No super strength, speed, or any elemental powers. Charismatic if not a bit hot-headed, the other 4 teens would follow the world's greatest detective's protege, Raven, a pale gray-skinned girl who uses her soul self. Wearing blue-purple cloak and black leotard, she become the occult specialist on the team. Her soul self powers affected by her emotions causes her to keep the team at arm's length. She doesn't speak much of her past, and with respect the others don't try to pry too often. Cyborg, the only other person on the team that would have been a normal human if not for a horrible accident. His father would attempt to save his life by blending organic with the inorganic. Machine and man, Cyborg is the tech expert for the team, physically the second strongest member. The second in command and the one least wanting of this kind of life. He sees himself as Frankenstein's monster thanks to his machine parts. Beast Boy, a green metahuman changeling, the youngest member on the team. Loud, immature life of the party, Beast Boy can change into any animal. Due to his appearance, a regular life was not possible. Being shunned by non-superhero/villain community members has made him play the role of the laughing, pranking idiot. Sakura couldn't look at the boy without thinking of her missing teammate. Someone who go above and beyond for his friends, and what he think is right, but deep down just wants to be wanted. Finally, Starfire, an orange-skinned green-eye alien. She was the cause of the alien invasion, and thus the reason the group of teens would team up. Physically the strongest, and the fastest, Starfire is the power hitter of the team. Starfire is very open about herself, sharing with anyone who wished to listen. Sakura, after hearing about Starfire's past, can't figure out how the girl could be so bubbly. Batgirl and Sakura would leave back to Gotham after the invasion. Robin's team, the Teen Titans, would keep him safe even without Barbara and Sakura around. Batgirl would keep in touch with Robin. When time allowed, her and Sakura would head over to Jump City for weekend to hang out with the Boy Wonder. For almost a year this would be the new norm. Everything would change though, when Batman encounters the juvenile Jason Todd, and the Titans encounter the Hive. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comment section how was the story. And also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.